My name is Ashley, and this is Let's Talk Dispatch.
I do. You're gonna do it. Do it really well.
And I believe the world needs more dispatchers.
Around in the mud, blood, and
plus
beer.
years that I'm not working 4th of July. 4th of July.
Say community policing, right? What about community dispatching?
So on this show, with the help of my guests, we will educate, empower, and support the heroes behind the headset. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode here of Let's Talk Dispatch with me, Ashley, the Raspy Dispatcher. Welcome to our first Minisode of 2025. It's almost February, and I can't believe how much time is flying by already. This year, we're planning to release about 3 episodes a month of Let's Talk Dispatch, including a minisode episode like this one. These standalone episodes are here to allow me to share updates about the Raspy Dispatcher, discuss anything in the news that's relevant to dispatchers out there, as well as share and highlight any stories that have been submitted to us through theraspydispatcher.com. Now, before we get into all that, let's hear a word from our sponsors. Today's episode of Let's Talk Dispatch is proudly sponsored by Prepared. Their mission is to be public safety's most assistive technology. Revolutionizing how we handle emergencies, Prepared is dedicated to saving more lives and making our communities safer. Learn more about how Prepared is transforming emergency response at prepared911.com. Our next sponsor is Zybex Media. Since 2020, Zybex has been creating impactful recruitment films for their customers. Zybex Media offers their expertise, providing a full range of media solutions designed to attract and retain talent for all PSAPs. Visit zybex.com/media to learn more. These partnerships help us continue to spread the message that the world needs more dispatchers. Interested in partnering with us? Head to theraspydispatcher.com. Now for today's big announcement. Here at the Raspy Dispatcher, we're launching a brand new webinar series called Dispatch Dialogues. Now, historically, our resources have been heavily geared towards the aspiring dispatchers. But current dispatchers, I have not forgotten about you. First off, thank you all so much to contributing to the community we've built here by coming on to the Let's Talk Dispatch podcast and sharing your experiences, your journeys, or giving back through our private Facebook group, Let's Talk Dispatch. Those are great ways for current and former dispatchers to pour into this community. And this webinar series, Dispatch Dialogues, is my way of giving back to you folks. Dispatch Dialogues is going to be geared towards the current dispatchers. It is going to be a round table style webinar where we're going to be talking about topics that impact the current dispatcher. Now, there's going to be a monetary fee to enter the webinar, but money generated from this webinar series is going to go back into a scholarship fund, which I'm super excited about. This scholarship fund is geared towards continued education for 911 dispatchers. So we're going to be covering folks' conference fee, entrance, if you're wanting to take the ENP, covering that test fee, things of that nature. So money does not prevent dispatchers from continuing to grow, continuing to better their craft, and continuing to get better and educated. So we're really excited about this webinar series for those reasons. Our first series is going to come out in March, and it's going to be focused on the CTOs out there. So if you are interested in learning more about Dispatch Dialogues, when we're going to open up registration, and just more information about what we're going to be covering in this webinar series, head to theraspydispatcher.com and sign up for the interest list today. We don't want to spam anybody with our information. We want to make sure the folks who are interested in learning more about this webinar series gets the information to them as soon as we continue to open up and tell you more about it. So, Dispatch Dialogues, a roundtable style webinar series for the current dispatcher, is going to launch in March. So, again, head to theraspydispatcher.com to sign up for that interest list so you don't miss out on any information as we continue to tell you more. Now, as for dispatch in the news, man, if you hadn't heard, the sheriff's department in Los Angeles had their own little Y2K moment. And this reality that they lived through is going to give every dispatcher listening some hesitation, some pause, maybe some PTSD, because we have all had this nightmare, if not actually been through it one time in our career, CAD going down. On New Year's Eve 2025, the Los Angeles County Sheriff Department's computer-aided dispatch system experienced a significant crash, rendering the whole system inoperable. So it didn't just hit a spinny wheel, I mean, it went down. The issue began around 8 p.m. when deputies were unable to log into their MDTs, and as a result, the department reverted to manual radio communications and station level tracking to manage emergency calls. So they went into manual mode, y'all, on New Year's Eve in a huge city. They were in manual mode at 8 p.m. And you know, any holiday that equals fireworks, the city's popping. So I know 8 p.m., they're just probably starting to heat up because of the holiday, let alone their regular calls for service. Thankfully, CAD was the only thing that was affected. 911 lines and radio communications remained fully operational, ensuring continued response to service calls. But as we in the dispatch world knows, everything lives in CAD. So they were full manual mode. Thankfully, officials have said that the outage was a technical problem and not some type of malicious attack or anything like that. For the LA County Sheriff's Department, they said this incident highlights the department's ongoing challenges with outdated technology, which is really a industry issue. We are constantly playing catch up with our technology. The world doesn't understand this, I think, the way that dispatchers do. Technology fails. It will fail. Hopefully, though, when it fails, it's only for a short amount of time. But technology fails, and we as an industry are behind on updating our infrastructure to be able to withstand the technology advancements that have happened over the last 15, 20 years. The sheriff, being aware that CAD was an issue, has already in mid 2023 stopped proposals for a new CAD system. Although they're still kind of waiting to see what happens with that, it is apparent that we need up-to-date CAD systems in every single department. So shout out to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department's dispatchers who rang in the new year stressful with a really stressful day. I haven't seen any reports. I'm assuming CAD is back up at this time, but I haven't been able to find any updates on if it's the status of if it's back up. Hopefully, fingers crossed it is, but I know for a fact that when that thing went down, you guys reacted, you guys handled business, because that's what dispatchers do, you know? So remember, if you are an admin, if you are someone who's in the decision-making departments of your agency, remember the technology that supports your 911 services. It's CAD, it's your phone lines, it's your radio systems. When those three things start having problems, services are interrupted, delayed, and lives are at risk. So let's remember to really check in with our software, with our vendors to make sure that we are not going to experience a Y2K in our centers. But with more dispatch in the news, LA, man, you guys have just had it rough. A rough start to 2025. If you have tuned into the news at all, you know that LA is on fire. Containment continues to increase, but Lives have been lost, homes have been destroyed, and first responders continue to show up day in and day out, even though they're living in these communities that are affected as well. Along with first responders like the firefighters, the EMTs, the police officers, 911 dispatchers are showing up to shift, working long hours, and are being impacted by these wildfires as well. And I think, I haven't experienced it personally, but I can only imagine that one of the worst things you can tell someone when they're calling for help is no one's coming. We are so inundated. There are so many fires here. You need to get out. You need to leave everything behind. No one's coming. And I imagine that these dispatchers had to say that probably more times than they would have liked to during this natural disaster. Because when people call 911, they expect someone to come. They expect us to be able to send help. And when it is such a grand situation like the fires in Los Angeles, there just isn't enough resources. So, at a certain point, you're just telling people to get out, save themselves, leave property behind, and go. So I know that is a very hard thing that you dispatchers had to deal with, working those fires and are still dealing with as you guys continue to rebuild your communities, the communities you live in, the communities you serve. And just know that we here at the Raspy Dispatcher, and I know dispatchers all over the state have you in their thoughts and want you to know that we know you guys are feeling it. And I'm sure you guys did an amazing job and are continuing to do an amazing job rebuilding that community, even when all the news, all the coverage goes away. So, shout out to any community, any center that has been impacted by those fires. We see you. Keep handling those calls one call at a time. Now, as we begin to wrap up our mini-sode, they're meant to be mini, 30 minutes or less, a quick highlight, a quick hello, and sharing any information that might be sent over to us to pass along to you folks. I want to remind everyone listening that you can always sign up to be a guest on our podcast. We enjoy talking to current and former dispatchers and any businesses that directly support first responders in general. And you sign up by heading to theraspydispatcher.com under podcast, guest sign up, and you pick a date and time that works for you. And we hop onto a little virtual session and have a cool little conversation. So it's meant to be very, very informal, chill session where we get to share our thoughts, feelings, and knowledge about this line of work. The other way you can participate in our podcast is submitting a story. You can do that on the website as well, theraspydispatcher.com. And it can be anonymous. You don't have to share your name. I don't share any emails that are submitted. And you can just share your story. It could be a funny one where you said some wild stuff over the air on accident, or a tough call you've taken and how you've worked through it. And the possibilities really are endless. Those stories that are submitted will be shared on our mini-sodes, and again, can be submitted completely anonymously. As always, if you do tune into the podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps our ratings go up. And speaking of ratings, don't forget to leave a 5-star rating. And if you really, really love us, leave a written review. It just helps us get in front of people who need to see the podcast, hear the podcast, and learn more about 911 dispatching. As always, make sure you continue to take care of yourself so you can continue to take care of others. January's been a little weird, y'all. But hang in there, buckle up. It's gonna be okay. Remember to prioritize yourself and stay raspy, everybody. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Dispatch podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the show, or maybe even submitting your own story, you can do all that and more at theraspydispatcher.com. Until next time, stay raspy.